Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In today's video, we are going to add the next 20 creature cards with a converted mana cost of 6 to our Momir Vig Cube. What's up, MTG That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of our Momir Vig Cube series. If you are new to the channel, or new to the format, or just want a quick review, you can search the description below for the link to the introduction to MTG Burgeoning's Momir Vig Cube. Additionally, you can click the link to Cube Cobra and view the entire contents of our cube as it stands right now. So let's get right down to the next 20 creature cards with converted mana cost 6 that are being added to our Momir Vig Cube. And the first one may be the best 6-drop in the entire cube, and that's going to be Brutaclad Telchor Engineer. It's a 4/4 Artificer. Creature tokens we control have haste. That line in and of itself is absolutely overpowering in a format like Momir Vig. Remember, every single creature summoned from the cube is a creature token. It is a copy, it is a token copy of a creature that's being summoned from the cube. So for the purposes of this Momir Vig format, Brutaclad reads, creatures you control have haste, but it doesn't end there. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then we may choose a token we control. If we do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. That is a lot to unpack. So let's reframe this for the purposes of what it means in our Momir Vig Cube. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then we may choose a creature we control. If we do, each creature we control becomes a copy of that creature. As long as we don't select a legendary creature and then they all end up dying because of the legend rule, we're going to select the biggest, most powerful creature on our side of the board, and we're going to have an entire army of them. That is ridiculously overpowered for what this cube is trying to accomplish. In a format that's combat driven, making every creature you control the best creature you control is just mind-bogglingly valuable. Brutaclad may not only be the most valuable 6-drop in this cube, it may be one of the best creatures overall. Our next 6-drop is a mono red creature, and it is Burning Sun's Avatar, a 6/6 dinosaur. When it ETBs, it deals 3 damage to target opponent and 3 damage to up to 1 target creature. So when this 6/6 hits the battlefield, we get to throw 2 lightning bolts, one at an opponent and one at hopefully one of our opponent's creatures. So a little bit of direct damage and a little bit of creature damage in a format where we only begin with 24 life. Our next 6-drop is another mono red creature. This one is the Capricious Efreet. It's a 6/4 Efreet. At the beginning of our upkeep, we choose target non-land permanent we control and 2 target non-land permanents we don't control, and we destroy one of them at random. This is one of the best ways in which we can have some creature removal in a format that is completely lacking any instants or sorceries or a lot of creature removal. So having Capricious Efreet gives us a 66.6 infinity chance of destroying one of our opponent's creatures. Next up, mono white, we have Captain of the Watch, a 3/3 human soldier with vigilance. Gives other soldier creatures we control +1/+1 in vigilance, and when it ETBs, we create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Now, the value of Captain of the Watch cannot be overstated. This is the Momir Vig format, so you are only summoning 1 creature per turn, and that is all. So if you are beneficial enough to summon a creature that can create other creatures, you are going to have a monumental I had it there. I had all the words lined up in my head for a moment, and then they just completely disappear. So let's try this one again. If you can have a creature that creates other creatures, you are going to have such a monumental advantage in that game that it may be enough to just overwhelm the board and claim victory. Captain of the Watch can be one of those creatures. It comes down, and at the end, it gives you 4 total creatures with total power toughness 9/9 stretched across 4 bodies. That is ridiculous value for the investment of 6 mana and 1 discarded land. All right, hitting the quarter points, we have another multicolored 6-drop. It is Carnival Hellsteed. It's a 5/4 Nightmare Horse with first strike and haste. It has the Unleash mechanic. When it ETBs, we can put a +1/+1 counter on it, but if we do, it cannot block. So, depending on how the battlefield looks, you may want to make that a 6/5 that can't block, or you may want to keep that 5/4 first strike for defensive purposes only. All right, next up, creature number 6, another mono red 6-drop. We have Chaos Imp, 6/5 flyer with the Unleash mechanic. Look at that, back-to-back Unleash mechanics. Again, it can enter with a +1/+1 counter, but if it does not block, and it has trample as long as it has a +1/+1 counter on it. My thoughts on this creature: if it flies, it's going into combat, and we are not holding it back. It's a lot different than with Carnival Hellsteed. It's a walker, but it has first strike, so it can be quite a combat deterrent. However, putting a 7/6 flying trampler into play that can't block for the investment of only 6 mana, yeah, we'll do that every day of the week and twice on Friday Night Magic. All right, next we have another mono white 6-drop. We have the Cho-Areen Bruiser from Mercadian Masks. It's a 3/4 rebel that whenever it attacks, we may tap up to 2 target creatures. So we could, through some combat machinations, we can send this bad boy into combat, tap down an opponent's most imposing blockers, and really start to inflict our will to the point where we may be able to overwhelm that opponent and send that opponent on to the next game. All right, creature number 8 in the 6-drop, and that's our first mono blue, and it's going to be City Watch Sphinx, a 5/4 flyer that when it dies, we get to surveil 2. For anyone that's unfamiliar, it just doesn't remember what the surveil mechanic means. That means we're going to look at the top 2 cards of our library, and then we're going to put any number of them into our graveyard and the rest on the top of our library in any order. This doesn't seem like it may be overly helpful. However, as we've already demonstrated throughout this video series, it is going to be very important to have as varied as a basic land deck as you possibly can. City Watch Sphinx will help you dig through the top couple cards of your library and make sure that you have the cards needed to cast you get the lands you needed to activate any potential abilities, both triggered and otherwise, and City Watch Sphinx will help you accomplish that. All right, next up, and creature number 9, we got our first mono green drop, and that's going to be Cloud Thresher, 7/7 with reach. The flash is irrelevant because we can only summon creatures from the Momir Vig Cube at sorcery speed. Whenever Cloud Thresher enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to each creature with flying and each player. So at the end, we're going to get a 7/7 with reach, a fantastic blocker if I've ever seen one, and a way in which to clean off the battlefield of any little puny chump blocking or damage pinging flyers. Yes, it's going to deal a couple points of damage to us, but it's also going to deal 2 to each of our opponents. All right, hitting the halfway point of this video, we have our first artifact creature, and that is Composite Golem. It's a 4/4 golem that we can sacrifice to add Wooburg to our mana pool. And why would we want to do that? Well, let's think of it this way. If we summon this to our side of the battlefield, during our next turn, we can sacrifice this for the 5 mana needed, tap a couple of additional lands, and we're already going to be able to summon an 8+ creature spell from the Momir Vig Cube ahead of curve and have some lands still untapped on our side of the battlefield for the purposes of activating any abilities. Composite Golem, although it may not seem like it, could be an integral summoning if an opponent or a player if any player is fortunate enough to get it on their side of the battlefield. All right, the first card of the second half, number 11, it's another mono red creature, and that is Conquering Manticore. It's a 5/5 flyer, and when it ETBs, we gain control of target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. We untap that creature, and it gains haste. So this can come down and take any creature that our opponents control, most likely the most valuable one. We get it for a turn. We can send it into combat. Maybe we have a sacrifice effect that we can try to get rid of it at the end. Either way, we get a 5/5 flyer and get to borrow a creature for a turn. Conquering Manticore could be a sneaky good play in the 6th spot. Next creature, we have a mono blue bird wizard, and it is the Crook Claw Elder. It's only a 3/2 flyer. However, if we're fortunate enough to get another bird and or wizard into play, then we can really start taking advantage of its activated abilities. We can tap 2 untapped birds we control to draw a card. Cards are integral in Momir Vig. We have to play the lands to summon our spells, plus we must discard a land from our hand each time we summon one of these creature spells. We can also tap 2 untapped wizards we control, and target creature gains flying until end of turn. In a format where combat is paramount, giving any one of our creatures some evasion like flying could be the difference between winning and losing the game. Yet another mono red drop in the 6th spot, we have Cyclops of Eternal Fury, a 5/3 that gives creatures we control haste. This may be a mechanic that is overly powerful in a format like Momir Vig, giving every one of our creatures that come into play haste, allowing them to attack that turn, not allowing them to sit out on the battlefield getting a little bit of dust until they can wear off their summoning sickness. Cyclops of Eternal Fury could be one of the sneaky alternate win conditions of this cube. Next up, we have our first mono black 6 drop of the video. It's Dark Hatchling, a 3/3 flyer. Yeah, I know, it's only a 3/3 flyer for a whole investment of 6 mana. However, when it ETBs, we can destroy target non-black creature and it cannot be regenerated. So, we're investing some of that mana in order to off one of our opponent's non-black creatures. Seems like it could be worth it. Plus, we do have an evasive creature that can swing in for 3 points of damage each time it turns sideways. All right, hitting the 3/4 mark, we have creature number 15, and yet another artifact creature. This one is Darksteel Sentinel. It is 3/3 Golem. Again, the flash doesn't mean anything because we can only summon creatures from the Momir Vig Cube at sorcery speed. Plus, we can't even get to pick which creatures are coming because it's completely randomized. So we have a 3/3 Vigilance and Indestructible. Hoo boy, this could really act as a combat deterrent for any of our opponents that are trying to send numerous walkers at us. Because we have a 3/3 Vigilant with Indestructible, which means it can attack and block every single combat and never get destroyed. Outside of any bounce effects, any exile effects, or minus effects, Darksteel Sentinel is going to be in the game for a very long time. Creature number 16 in another mono white edition, we have Deathless Angel, a 5/7 flyer. Man, 5/7 flying. There we go. A 5/7 flyer, and we can pay 2 white mana to give target creature indestructible this turn. So, MTG BC, make sure your basic land decks have those planes. Plus, notice the text on Deathless Angel. It gives target creature indestructible and not target creature we control. This allows for a little politicking at the Momir Vig table because you could make one of your opponent's creatures indestructible for the end of the turn, until the end of turn. All right, next up in another mono blue edition, we have the Deep Channel Mentor, a 2/2 merfolk for 6 mana. A 2/2 merfolk for 6 mana. Hopefully it brings the bang when it comes to its abilities, and if you're lucky enough, it might, because it gives blue creatures you control unblockable. Now again, with everything being completely randomized through summoning the creatures in the Momir Vig Cube, it's no guarantee that we will have any more blue creatures outside of Deep Channel Mentor. However, you hit a couple, and if they're big uns, even if they're not, you have an unblockable way, or you have creatures that are unblockable, you can send them into combat and whittle down the life totals of your opponents. All right, next creature up, it is another multicolored creature, and the second Rakdos colored creature of this video, and it's going to be a doozy, folks. It's the Defiler of Souls, a 5/5 flyer. Right then and there, a 5/5 flyer for 6 mana are already great stats considering some of the other creatures we've seen just in this video alone. However, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a mono-colored creature. Yes, this is going to have the propensity of hitting us. It's going to have the propensity of hitting our opponents too. As one of the themes that's been woven into this Momir Vig series, not every creature included is going to be overpowered or uber useful. However, Defiler of Souls does have the ability for sacrificial removal of monocolored creatures, and that could prove to be a very pivotal point in any game of Momir Vig. All right, we are down to our last two creatures, and they're both monocolored. All right, number 19, we have a Destructor Dragon, a mono green dragon with flying for 4/4, and whenever it dies, we destroy target non-creature permanent. So for the purposes of this Momir Vig Cube, what Destructor Dragon is really saying is when Destructor Dragon dies, destroy target land, because every other permanent in play is going to be a creature. So Destructor Dragon, if it goes to the graveyard, guess what, folks? You are picking any one of your opponent's lands, and you are sending that to the graveyard as well. All right, we are 19 deep. This is the 20th and final card of this video. It is a mono blue Djinn. It is Djinn of Infinite Deceits. 2/7 with flying. We can tap it and exchange control of 2 target non-legendary creatures. We cannot activate this ability during combat. So imagine tapping this and exchanging a Llanowar Elf for something that was summoned from the 8+ mana summoning tier of the Momir Vig Cube. As long as they're not legendary, we are going to have a great deal of shenanigans tapping Djinn of Infinite Deceits. And there we have it, MTG BC, another 20 cards added to the Momir Vig Cube. Let me know in the comment sections which creatures you value of these 20, and which ones you would not want to have to face during a game of Momir Vig. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.